Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the session where we're basically going to introduce the growth initiative. So, as I mentioned in the introductory video that you may have seen in the mail campaigns out on social media and so on, this has been long in the making. So I think I'd announced formally that I was going to do this round about May time, like early May time. But the thing is, this has actually been in the making for probably about a year and a half, if not a little bit longer as well, as you will find when it comes to you diving in and exploring some of the materials and the assets and so on. Um, these things take time. They definitely take time. And it's the kind of reaching all of you takes time, engaging with you all, but also kind of creating the content and the assets, the sessions, building the platform, everything takes time. And when you bring this into the fact that I also have a full-time day job, it just makes matters worth as well as naturally family life and all that kind of thing. So I'm incredibly excited to have this here and basically having this conversation because this is basically where iteration one is out in the wild and it has people like you coming in to basically play around with this thing and basically get value out of it. So, yeah, thank you for joining me on this journey. And I promise you will not be disappointed throughout this. So, what is basically my aim for this session? So, it's to introduce a little bit more about what the growth initiative is and the reasons why it is that I've actually created this. We'll also be talking about exactly what it is, and we'll be able to show you as best as possible. I'll talk a little bit about a slight issue with this that I've just had 30 minutes ago. But basically, a view of basically all the things that you have access to under the membership that you have there. I'll also give a bit of a run through as to what is actually coming up within the coming weeks as well, and also an opportunity for questions to be asked as well. So if you do have a question, there's basically the Q&A panel. Just drop your question into there, and I will pick it up at different points as soon as I see it pop in there. So, conscious I may be new to some people, so I'll give you a little bit of background as to who I am. I work in the corporate world, work in the tech space, have done for around about 16, 17 years. I also have a background in coaching, so I have been coaching for around about 3, 4 years now in total, maybe a little bit longer. I've got around about 300 hours of coaching experience, along with multiple accreditations in the field too, including Masters of Psychology and Neuroscience as well. Um, as I will explain later as to my reasons why, my intention has always been to make sure that I have the knowledge, the experience, and the tool sets to enable people to grow. And I know not a lot of other coaches feel that same way, unfortunately, which is one of my reasons why, which I'll come on to shortly. But making sure that I have that has been a pivotal part of my own growth, my own journey, and why I arrived today at this point, basically being able to offer you this initiative comfortably, knowing that it will 100% deliver value if you dedicate yourself to this. So I'm going to explore now a little bit of the reason why this came into existence. So as I mentioned, it's been long in the making. It's been making in the years rather than the months, most definitely. Albeit, I must admit, this last 2, 3 months has been crazy in terms of the focus and the activity on this. And I always like to start, if you attend one of my webinars, you will know I always like to start with a quote and then we unpick this and begin to explore it, right? Each person holds so much power within themselves, and it just frankly needs to be let out. Sometimes people just need a little tiny nudge. They may need a little direction. They may need a little bit of support. They may need a little bit of coaching. But that is what can lead to the greatest things to happen in their life. So, in unpacking this a little bit, so first and foremost, you have the answers. So you coming into the growth initiative and even any other type of coaching, like you 100% have the answers. It's just a case of sometimes it takes a little nudge, as that quote suggested, to actually have you see those answers. It's about asking yourself the right question. It's about you being prepared to ask yourself some of those difficult questions. And that, in essence, is what a coach does. It asks you some of those difficult questions. Now, one thing, at least for me in my experience of being coached, it's about seeing the wood in the trees. So we're naturally drowning in our own reality. We have so many things going on in our professional and in our personal life. We're operating at that ground level. And what the power of a coach is basically sitting on the sidelines, sitting with that 1,000-foot view of every other thing that it would be impossible for you to be able to see. And this is where we can begin to elevate and ask different questions. Basically, what happens if we begin to ask ourselves the questions that, firstly, we're not prepared to answer, but also that we potentially don't even see. And coaching for me is one thing that I certainly have taken a lot of value in this space out of. That I always say to my coach that it's just incredible, the like I'm out in the field playing the game, whereas you're actually seeing the entire game unfold. And I think it's difficult for us to see otherwise. And then the part in this quote about the great things that then happen. We are the instigators of our own success. When we go through some coaching engagements, it's not the coach who is getting these successes for us. It's us. It's us who are doing it. But it's that question of, again, asking ourselves those tough questions. Are we prepared to? Are we prepared to put in the work to basically get to where we aspire to be? Because if we're not, then we might as well give up and go home. Great things happen to those who strive for them to happen, who put the effort in. So why is it that I created this? So first off, accessibility. Everybody needs a coach. Absolutely everybody. In whatever capacity it is that they're actually working, they need a coach to help them. And it's because this external perspective is just so valuable for them. And I know from experience that without a great coach, our growth will be limited. The problem is, though, that one-on-one, it's often out of reach for many people. And that's because the coaches who are actually worth the time and worth engaging, they have incredible experiences. They have incredible knowledge and insights. And with that comes a price tag. So it's then, how does this come about to basically make it so we're able to make it a lot more accessible? And the answer is clear. It's group coaching. And group coaching brings, it brings some downsides. It also brings a lot of benefits as well, which this is where the growth initiative came in. It's about breaking down these barriers. And it's doing that by having targeted sessions on the materials and assets that coaches actually use. So everything that is on this platform, these are things that coaches will use with you. And you won't be getting that hand holding through those things, but in the group sessions, there will be that group level hand holding through these things. This is also unbelievably low cost. So I appreciate you've joined this as the introductory experimental piece of this being basically free. But where this is going is the next price jump is going to be £47 a month for this. And that is still great value because of what the outcomes will be for everybody who is involved in this. So the next part is what I mentioned about one of the other positives around what this brings. It's group learning. So it's great having that one-on-one engagement with a coach because she can go incredibly specific, incredibly deep. But what group learning allows you to do is to broaden your horizons because you're hearing about the experiences of other people. It's about accelerating your learning. The next one is something I alluded to earlier, and I I honestly found this quite shocking in the pandemic times, which it was one of the drivers for me starting this journey. And it's that there was this absolutely huge influx of people who begun to jump on a market that basically needed, people were needing connection. And people were jumping on that saying, I'm going to be a life coach. And they didn't have the appropriate training. They didn't have the appropriate, I'll say accreditation certifications. That's not as relevant. But the thing is, what we're doing here as coaches is we're potentially changing people's psychology. We're changing people's mindset. And that is not something to be messed with if we don't know what we're doing. And that is the real problem. And that is one of the biggest things that I see about this industry, that there's people arising who don't have the knowledge, they don't have the tool sets, they don't have the experience to effectively coach people, but they're out there trying to do it and claiming that they can do it. And that for me is a big problem because it not only harms you as a potential recipient of that, potentially giving these people a lot of money, but it also harms the industry as well because we then get a bad reputation because of these experiences. Now, as I mentioned, from like 2018, I started a journey in this space, and that was mindfulness meditation certification. It then led me into psychology and neuroscience. It then led me into the ICF coaching with Barefoot. It's led me down the path of an NLP practitioner. And there's more. There will be more. There's more in the plans, pipeline. It's about the hours, those 300 hours. It's about me having a role in building a lot of the tools that you will see on the platform. And it's also that whilst this is a future thing, anybody who else who gets drawn into the program to essentially teach, it's then about making sure that they're vetted. My 100% aim is to have spot sessions where we're pulling in experts who are the true experts in these sessions and having them lead it, having them take it. So the final one of the why is about impact for me. So it plays into that accessibility a little bit, but ultimately I see this as a separate thread because I want to benefit as many people as possible. I want to grow them. I want people to have access to resources and tools that I didn't have access to when I was coming through, when I was growing as a leader. And there's a lot of things that I've learned, and it's about imparting some of that as well. It's also about kind of recognizing that of all the people that I both work with now and also previously have, they're all coming to me with very similar issues. They want promotion, progression. They want a salary increase. They want to improve their performance. They want to start their own business. They're suffering from stress and anxiety, procrastination. All these go on. And there's common themes. And it's like I'm having a little bit of a cookie cutter approach with some of these things as well, because often the solutions to these problems are the same. So then it's why not make these solutions more accessible? So in terms of this, as I say, I have an absolute bee in my bonnet about that previous slide, that there's people out there who claim that they are experienced, claim that they can help. They will quite happily take people's money, but then they're not effective in the results that they actually deliver. And that for me is an absolutely big issue. A huge, huge issue. So for me, it's about some of these tools that coaches actually use. It's making these available to the people that I work with so that they have a choice. They can either go off and do this by themselves and learn and develop in a similar way to what they would with a coach one-on-one. Or they can take some of these tools to their coach. Or if it's working with me one-on-one, it's bringing them tools into engagements with me. Ultimately, it's about this point number 2 on the list. This is another part about impact. There are so many poor leaders in the world. It's just astonishing how there's certain influencers on social media who post stories about people who've maybe posted to Reddit, or they have messaged them with stories about certain experiences that they've had with their leaders. And it's just incredible how these people end up in the roles that they do because they have absolutely zero emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is fundamental to great leadership. And now the growth initiative focuses across both of these. It's about developing leadership skills. But not everybody wants to be a people leader. And now I tag leader with, it's not just about people leader. It's like you are a leader, regardless if you think it or not, because you're a leader of your personal life. You're a leader in your family. You're potentially a leader in your friend group. Doesn't mean you need to be a people leader. There'll be elements of your job that you lead people in. It's making sure that we have the skills to effectively do this. And that's where we focus. We focus on all of these. So that's in essence the reason why. There's a couple of problems that I see in the industry, major problems, but then it's about accessibility and impact as well. So what is it? You may have tuned into some of the videos where I've given some overviews as to what it is. And you may have also seen this slide, but I'm actually going to talk through it again, just so you firmly know. So what I thought with this is, so how can I bring something that's incredibly valuable to people whilst naturally giving the lower price point, not taking up a absolutely substantial amount of my time, but then allowing me to give back enough to people. So it is still an investment on my side. And this is where I thought, okay, I think first off, I need to understand what the pathway is to developing great leaders. And that pathway is scientifically proven that mindfulness meditation helps to develop emotional intelligence. And it's because what we're doing when we're practicing, and it's different guises of practice, we are introspecting, we are reflecting, we are sitting with our thoughts, our emotions, before we then jump to conclusions and react. And that, in essence, that self-awareness and self-management is a key aspect of leadership, because we wouldn't be a good leader if we constantly reacted based on the emotion that we was experiencing. And this helps us to grow. The next one is then about the specific assets, the events, the masterclasses, all of these things, which if you've been into the portal, you will have seen. It's about outcome-oriented coaching at that group level. This is about picking up on key topics that people are having problems with. I've mentioned a few of them in one of those previous slides. There's some mentioned here: how to get promoted, how to build high-performing teams, how to overcome difficult conversations. And this is where we then pick up on some of these assets, some of these tools, and we begin to work through them live, working through them step by step, identifying the vision, different elements. You might be building a vision board. And this is the joy of this, that what I'm going to come to towards the end is for the first live session, it's going to be everybody else. It's going to be every one of you who decides basically what that is. It's going to go to a vote. What's your biggest challenges? And then let's host a session on that. And that'll be the flavor of these going forward. And the idea of these is these are going to happen, these two, there's going to be one week, and there's going to be one the other. The sessions will last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how people are engaging. But then what underpins all of this is that library of resources. So it was interesting. I said I was spending a lot of time over this last couple of months doing the build for all of this stuff. And initially there was around about 30 or 40 different tools that was involved in this. But then I started to think, so how are these actually aligning to some of the core programs that I've got in there? So what there's going to be is 5 core programs focusing on specific obstacles, challenges that people are having. And within those, these assets then fit within these programs, along with like the events, the masterclasses, and so on. And I thought, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of gaps in this that if it was me sitting through this, then I would feel as though I'm not actually getting the full resolution of the problem. And that's where this resource library expanded to around about 80 or 90 different tools in total. And now this isn't intended to overwhelm at all, because ultimately it's picking and choosing what is relevant to you in each of these. Because I wouldn't expect every single tool to be something that you adopt. So I'll give a prime example of journaling. Now, journaling is not something that everybody enjoys. And there are journals in here. There are journals of different guises. There's a gratitude journal. There's a focus journal. There's different journals for different purposes. And it might be that you're just not interested in that. And that's okay, because what the idea was of this expansion was to go, well, there's these other things that can fill that gap to make it so you're still developing that specific skill, that specific area, solving that specific problem. Now, what is most definitely not there and is coming, is I'm focused on these 3 at the top. It's then thinking, so how can we really accelerate the time to insight? Because sometimes sitting through a 30-minute recording, a masterclass, an event, yeah, there'll be great insights within that. But what is the quick fire insights that can actually help you to get straight to the point with this? I say these things aren't there, but the second one actually is halfway. So there are 2 programs that are live in there at the moment. There's the peak performance program, and there's also the mindful living program. There's meant to be 3 more. So that's what I meant by it's not there yet. There's going to be 3 more that are arriving in this, and that's going to be my focus until the end of the month, these 3 other programs. So they will be live by the end of this month. And the community as well, I think I'm going to leave that for a little bit. I think it's important that I focus on all of these other things first before we go launching out into the community around this. So let me just test something, because now I will tell you what issue I've been experiencing. So 30 minutes before this session, it's working. So 30 minutes before this session, I dived on the website, on the platform, to begin to prep all the tabs that I was going to begin to show you. And I was hit by a Cloudflare error. So I was like, right, this is brilliant timing, sarcastically, because I'm about to basically do the live launch of this and it's not working. But here we go. I can actually show you what all of this actually looks like. So let me just bring this down. So basically, if you go onto the website, if you go onto stephenbaines.coach, that will take you to the homepage. And if you have registered, which just let me show you the registration piece. This is basically the registration portal. So it's /memberships/growth. This is basically where you will register for this. And as I have said with this, this is completely free at this point in time. I am looking to basically review this, and possibly towards the end of the month, that's where I will begin to charge people for access. But if you get in now, then that's not a problem. You have free access for the life of the product. So if you haven't already, make sure you go onto this link. Let me see if I can put this into the chat. I'll just be one moment. So there we go. Go in there. If you haven't already, register, and that gets you access to everything that I'm going to show you here today. So then if you immediately click over into the My Dashboards, what we have is a kind of a Netflix style dashboard. So I was going with something that was pretty easy for people to consume. And this is then everything that you have. So these are all the different independent assets that are available. There will be some slight changes to this going forward because rather than it being an individual asset base, I'm focusing at that program level instead. Okay. So basically you can see all the different assets that can help you in different ways. Now, all I need to do is find the program. So if I go back here, what you can do is actually search for whatever you're looking for here. So if we go for the mindful living, what this pops up with is this is the mindful living product. Click resume course, and this is then the specific program for the mindful living series. There'll be, as I say, multiple ones of these, 5 of them all together. And when you go into each one, it's then given a little bit of a blurb as to what this specific initiative is. And then it's given supporting assets that will actually help you through that specific challenge or that specific problem. It's kind of supporting whatever this talk is. These assets will then support those. So it's allowing you to both be educated, so receiving some information about, in this case, what mindfulness is, different mindfulness techniques, and so on, before then actually what this audiobook does is helps you begin to go and put that into practice. Okay. So in terms of other things, let me go back to the homepage. On here, so we've got the Netflix style dashboard, which it basically will be program oriented. Got easy access for resuming courses and so on. What is actually going to be coming is the replays of any of the sessions that we do host. So they will be held within this section. And then also any announcements about any upcoming sessions will also be held within this section as well. Now, this evidently hasn't saved because I actually built this earlier. It was basically, all it had was a TBC written across it because the first session is going to be held in early August. And that is where I'm going to be putting a vote out to everybody who has enrolled. And then the session will basically be there for them to pick. It'd basically the one that I host is whatever the most popular vote is. Okay. Now let me remember if I've missed anything on the site. So I'll go through these screens because I think these actually probably show a better view than what I actually have done. So this is the Netflix style view of everything. We've got the specific programs that are there. The idea with the programs is that the way we've structured it is, first off, it's showing what you will learn. It's then talking a little bit of education about what that specific topic is. We'll then be talking about why this is actually important and covering some of the science behind that specific topic. And then it covers some of the quick action tips as well before diving into, okay, so here's the assets and here's basically what you need to do. This is one of the sample assets, which let me give you a better view of this. So with the assets and the worksheets, if you have multiple choices how you do this, so they all are downloadable. So you can download them straight to your laptop. You can get them printed off. For those that are editable, so these have got fields in. If you have Adobe or if you have other PDF readers, that will basically allow you to automatically go in and actually edit them. I've opened this up in Chrome, so basically it won't be editable. But if you do have a PDF reader, then you can basically edit directly in here and save them off. It probably is worth you actually printing them, though. I am a big fan of kind of handwriting some of these things out because it basically helps us to basically embody a lot of the exercises and things like that. So this is basically what some of the worksheets are, some of the assets. It's just step-by-step guides, basically taking you through, in this case, helping you to discover your core values. In terms of this one, this is about monthly focuses, and this is then helping you to get to execution towards your goals, basically, as two examples. Let me have a look. Let me have a look through some other slides. Yeah, the different types of content that are available on here. So these do vary. So we have the PDFs that we've just seen that you can download, you can print, you can do whatever you want with. There is then the video side of things as well. So this is an example. What they typically are is slideware from a video standpoint, so it's video and audio. What I've also tried to do is that I know sometimes people like the flexibility of basically listening whilst on the go. So a lot of these have also been turned into audio books that are held on the platform too. There are also a couple of other things like journeys that you can sign up for. So one, for example, is a 10-day mindfulness journey. And what this will do is drop it could be a mindfulness meditation, it could be a journal prompt, it could be some thinking, some exercises. It'll just drop them into your inbox on a daily basis for 10 days. And what I find a lot of people do is they tend to re-enroll at the end of that 10 days because practice basically is good. It makes perfect. So in terms of an overview, actually, I will pause there. I will notice, is there any questions? So let's see, there's some questions, and I did have a couple sent over for people who couldn't attend as well. So one question I had beforehand was, so how long is access available for these assets? So basically with this, I still maintain the offer that for anybody who adopted this early, this is an experiment. I basically wanted to see how everybody reacted to this kind of thing. There's a lot of data in the background here, so understanding what specific assets people are using, what programs people are spending the most time on, and things like that. And that's really useful information to me because that's when I can understand these are the issues that people in my industry, in my space, are actually facing. So, I'm getting a lot of information from this that is useful. I think in terms of this, it can be free for as long as the program is alive. What I do need to see, though, is I do need to see this grow. I think if it gets to the point where this isn't growing, then that's where I may consider reevaluating. So if you find that you are enjoying this, then please do share it. Whilst I have highlighted that toward the end of July, I will be looking to charge new people a fee for it. That is not 100% certain. If I find that it has absolutely substantial growth throughout that period, then I will probably scrap that because I'm more interested in the impact of this and the reach than I am actually of the money associated with it, because I know I can get my income from other sources relating to this. So in terms of how long you have access, indefinitely, basically. Yeah, and that's basically it. Are there going to be new programs, new initiatives? So the initial idea was that it was going to be these five, because these are relating to the five core challenges that people that I work with face. So at the moment, I'm going to get these live by the end of July. Will there be any more though? Maybe, maybe. So if I start hearing from people that there's specific things that they need to address, then there may be one or two that actually gets created. But ultimately, these were intended to be quite holistic in the way that they solved key problems that people I work with face. So I would envisage that these cover a lot of what you all need. But happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy to explore other things. But then also on this, the specific events that I'm hosting every week, they will completely flex, and they don't need to be related directly to things that are actually within the within the programs as well, within the self-paced stuff. So these can just be specific point hot topics that people are actually having issues with. So, I guess there's some rigidity on that program side. It takes a lot to create these things, so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant. But in terms of the master classes, yeah, they're very, very flexible. Okay. Okay, what else? So what happens if you need more help? Right. Yeah, so this is interesting. So I think the answer, it depends with this one. So it depends what you mean by more help. Now, I would gladly help people one on one in some situations. The thing I really have to consider is I have a full-time job in the tech sector, and I also have the balance of the family life and my own mental sanity and my own space. Um, and also this. So it's just that balance of what time and availability do I have to actually serve people on a larger scale, which is ultimately why I created this. So I'm not ruling anything out, is I guess what I'm saying. But if more direct help is needed, I am happy to have a conversation basically about what that begins to look like. Because ultimately, I know it will probably get to that point, and it's where a decision on my part needs to be made. Um, any other questions? Doesn't look like there's any questions, but there's still time. Not too long left in this session. I'm intending to make it as brief as possible. But yeah, let's go. So basically, what is coming up? What's the kind of roadmap here? So I've decided to structure it first that the meditation actually goes second. So what I thought about is it right to dive right into some of these live sessions basically next week? And I thought no, because it's gone live and it's gone live with a lot of materials that in isolation can add a lot of value if you're dedicated to them. So I thought I would give a period of time both to help you and also to help me to just allow absorption of some of this before as well allowing me, as I've alluded to, creating the other things that fill those other gaps. So I'll accelerate this part. So the part on the right hand side, this evergreen resource library. So the masterclass recordings, the programs, the assets, some of those that I showed earlier, they are actually generally available now. They are live. You have access to them. If you do searches in that search box on the homepage, if you go into your dashboard, you will see these things there. So have a look around, have a play around. If you have a specific challenge or a problem in mind, bang it into the search and it will probably come up with an asset. It should come up with an asset that will actually help you with that. And just get to work and drop me a message if you have any questions, because I'm happy to help you with any questions you have about the assets and sessions and things like that. The first session will be Thursday, the 1st of August. So it will be at 8 p.m. So I'm going to run them at this same time every single week. I am going to put this out to a vote, as I've said, as to what the topic is going to be. So pay attention to emails on this, and then I will basically tailor the content towards that. And then the week after, that's where there will be a live guided meditation plus a thematic talk. So the idea of these sessions, let's do a short meditation, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, but then we surround it with a talk about what that meditation actually means, what we're intending to get out of this. Now, one of the great ones is that goal setting visualizations. So this is where we'll be doing a visualization exercise. This is where it's about exploring your current situation, your goals and aspirations. Before then, visualizing yourself not taking action, not doing anything, and what that actually feels like. Now, this is the psychology here. The feeling, the emotion is incredibly important. And that's where the real power is in some of these tools. So it's those kind of things that we'll be playing with. And as I mentioned, these things coming in future, definitely roadmap items. Some of these at least by the end of this month. So watch out for an email where you will basically get to vote on what the topic is for that very first session. And that will be on the 1st of August at 8 p.m. So block out your calendar, and I will make sure there's invites going out for those as placeholders as soon as possible. So I expect those within the coming week or so. So that's it for today. My intention of this session, as I said at the start, was to give an overview as to my why, to explore the program, give you a little bit of background as to me, as to basically my history, and yeah, kind of show you what this thing is. So I will pause just for another 30 seconds, give a chance for any more questions to come in. Okay, so during the live sessions, will we be able to ask questions? Yes, this is actually a very important question. Um, I ran this as a webinar because I wanted this to be more about you seeing everything rather than a Zoom session where we naturally get the interruptions that happen because of people coming in and out and so on. I wanted this to be basically a dedicated kind of show you session. All of these other sessions are not going to be like this. They are going to be Zoom sessions where basically everybody can see each other. You can ask each other questions. You can have the chat just like you use Zoom normally. They will be normal Zoom sessions. When the audience grows to a certain point, we may also expand that out into breakouts and things like that as well. Okay, but I need to play around with that and see the point that that begins to happen. Yeah. So yeah, don't think that the sessions are going to be like this, where it's just me talking to you for an hour or whatever it is. That's not the case. Collaboration is where we're going forward. Definitely. Anything else? No? Okay, so if there's no other questions, then I am more than happy to let you go 18 minutes early. But as I say, if you do have any questions, go have a play around. If you do have any questions, then please do drop me a note. My email contact is, well, it's on the emails that you've been receiving, so you can just reply to all, or reply to me, not to all. Or it's on the website. It's on there as well. Okay, but yeah, great to have you exploring this with me. I'm kind of really excited by this little experiment and yeah, how I can add value to you. Right. Hope you have a great evening.